EBHypno live stream of consciousness. I hope you're all doing well today. It is a hot one here in Seattle. I'm actually kind of surprised. Um, Now, I'm going to be looking around a lot. And that's because, once again, I am live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, I think whatever else here over the on your restream with the pretty graphics and all that. But I'm also live over here on Instagram because Instagram still has not given me access to their studio live producer thing that you need to connect it to connect Restream to Instagram. So I am stuck kind of doing both when I want to go live and be on Instagram at the same time. Now, I have a theory, okay? Bear with me here. I have a theory of a way that I can actually get them to notice and give me access to their live producer. And that I'm going to need your help. And I think the best way to do that is to give me a follow on Instagram, EBHypno over there. And that's really going to get them to take notice. I think if everybody follows me, shares this, shares my profile. I mean, I've got a lot of great posts over there. If you go back a ways, there's a lot of awesome cat memes too. So share those, tell your friends, but follow me on Instagram, and let's see if we can't kind of grease the wheels for them to give me access to their live producer, so I don't have to keep going like this and like this and like this, and I can talk to everybody all in one spot and have a better kind of lighting setup. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. It would be really helpful. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, and you know what? If you're on TikTok too, you know what? I don't have live access there yet because I'm still under 1,000 followers. So if you could give me a follow on TikTok, I'm Hypnosis with Evan over there. That's going to help me out too. Probably less of a ways to go to get live access there than it is here. I have no idea. I'm figuring all this out. But if you give me a follow on both TikTok, again, Hypnosis with Evan, Instagram, EBHypno, I'm really going to appreciate that. And it'll be great to be able to see you guys. So, yeah, I'm not sure what else I was going to talk about now because that just kind of popped into my head. And I figured, hey, why not? But I think since what I have been talking about a lot lately has been resistance to things that we want to do and releasing the heavy emotions that come up so we can move past all of that and actually get the things that we want out of life and reach our goals. And I want to kind of talk about some elements that make up a good practice of releasing. And I think that the biggest thing about it is to really focus on the feeling. This is the number one thing that you want to do when you're releasing is focus on the feeling. So the feeling is going to help you identify the emotion. Even if you don't know it, you just sit there, sit with it, welcome in whatever you're going through, and allow the feeling to come up in your body, wherever that is. All right. So every emotion has a feeling attached to it. Yeah, and they drive each other. So focusing on the feeling, practicing feeling your body, noticing the environment around you, how that makes you feel, all of that is a very important part of the releasing process, because it's going to help you accept what is and identify what is too, which is another kind of important thing there. The other part, because we're dealing with feelings and emotions, and these can come up in a lot of ways that doesn't make sense, right? We're not thinking with logic, we're thinking with emotion. Emotion and logic are two different things here. So we really want to practice, when we're releasing, turning off that analytical part of our mind and don't, let go of overthinking and analyzing what we're going through, analyzing the emotions and everything. We don't need to do that when we're releasing. We just need to accept what is and welcome that in. Welcome, acknowledge, whatever word you like to use. But that's the important thing. I can't stress that enough. Is sometimes we might have an emotion comes up that generates a feeling that's completely unrelated to anything we might have been experiencing that day. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, where did that come from? Maybe it's already been there. Maybe it is something else that you wouldn't even think would trigger that emotion, bringing it up. Okay? Why, it doesn't matter. So we just shut that off, because it's about letting go of the emotions. It's about letting all of that flow through us, right? And what we want to do is also follow the 1% rule. Things. We don't need to clear things out all at once, especially if it's something that we've struggled with for years and years, or is like some deep rooted beliefs that are really heavy in there, really heavy limiting beliefs. We don't have to knock it out all at once, right? We just want to focus on getting 1%, and we just want to feel a little lighter after every release. And again, 1% is fine. Compounding interest takes over. 1%, and then 1%, and 1% on that. And then you will start to see radical changes in a very short amount of time when you let that compounding interest take over. So just focus on that 1% rule, just feeling a little lighter, and that creates consistency, and consistency is key. And along those same lines, 1% is you want to celebrate every win, right? A win is a win, and it doesn't matter how big or how small. Celebrate it. Pat yourself on the back. It's like, hey, I released 1%. Great. Maybe if you've been super stuck on something, and that release, maybe it is even 1%. Maybe it's like 0.5%. That's still a win. You release something. Celebrate that. We want to put the bar on the ground, so it's easy to just go right over it, instead of setting it way up high and creating an impossible challenge for ourselves. But celebrate the win. Get used to feeling good about things, right? Find any little thing that's going right. And I mean, that's always an opportunity to show gratitude too, right? But we have, as human beings, a negativity bias, and it's a survival mechanism. Everything that sucks is going to stand out to us a lot more than everything that's good. And when we're aware of that, we can counteract it. But it's natural, because it's a kind of danger sense in a way. It's like, this is bad. It keeps us away from that. But we want to focus on the good things so we can move towards that, because wherever our focus goes, that's what expands. So if we're thinking, oh, well, this is never going to work for me, I can't do this, we're going to keep finding excuses, reasons why that story is true, backing up that false narrative. So if we go, hey, I got this win today, things are going pretty good, then we're going to keep finding more and more good things as we go along. That doesn't mean everything's going to be sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. It's not. Sometimes things are just going to be, sometimes things just suck, and that's part of this amazing and oftentimes frustrating experience called being alive. And I mean, it's kind of like the sweet isn't sweet without the sour, sort of thing. It's going to happen. We're like a ball of tape rolling around on a dusty floor, collecting things as we go through life, and that's fine. It is what it is. We can always shake ourselves off and start back, but find the good things in there and celebrate those, no matter how small they are. Right? Worst day in the world, be like, well, you know what? I found a penny. So I guess that's kind of cool. Yeah. A win is a win. If you think about it in terms of sports, right? Play the whole game. It doesn't matter how badly you do throughout the game. It's the team with the most points when the whistle blows is the one that gets that W in the win column. And they could play sloppy the whole rest of the time, but they still get the win at the end. And that's, a win is a win. Celebrate it. And and remember, when we're releasing and going through this process of developing a practice of it, and like kind of sitting down at the end of the day and okay, what am I feeling now? What do I need to welcome in, and all of that? I mean, it's a very good habit to have, really, but we don't want to become attached to it, because the whole idea of releasing is letting go of attachments, whether that's to just feelings that don't serve us anymore, old limiting stories that we tell ourselves, shit that's buried underneath that we don't need. We peel that onion back. But the thing about releasing is we're not actually, it sounds like a very active term, releasing. I'm doing something, but releasing isn't about doing. It's actually about doing less, about using less energy. It's about relaxing and allowing it to happen, because going through that scale of emotions is something that we just do naturally. We do it without needing to do releasing. Releasing can help us, especially if we get into an area where we get stuck, spinning down the heavier emotions like apathy, grief, and fear. But I look at it this way: if you're driving down the road, somebody cuts you off, you're gonna get pissed off about it, right? It's like, oh, that asshole. A block goes by, you've completely forgotten that's even happened, because you just let go of that anger that came up. It just went out. If you have anger issues, you might be hanging on to that for 2 weeks and just going, and making up all of these crazy stories that, like, whoever cut you off was deliberately doing it, even though they had no idea who you were. That's a different issue. That's, that's some other stuff that, a one-on-one hypnosis session could help with, if you're ready. But normally what's happening is We'll experience the emotion, and then we let it go, and it flows up, and we cycle through. And I view releasing as setting the baseline at different levels when we're developing a good practice for it. So like, you know, one area of life, we could be up in courage, acceptance, love, and peace. And that's great. Another area of life, we could be all the way down to apathy, grief, and fear. And, you know, by having a releasing practice and doing that, we can move things up, because we want, you know, for me, the goal is I want the baseline to be up in courage and higher from there in every aspect. But at the same time, we have to accept and know that, you know, it's an ongoing cycle. Just because, you know, the baseline's there doesn't mean that we don't experience the other stuff. We absolutely do. We're built to experience those. They're not good. They're not bad. You know, let go of value judgments associated with the heavier stuff on the lower end of the scale, because they're there for a reason. But anyway, might circle back to that. The big thing is the releasing process, is about relaxing and allowing the flow to come in. So I'm holding this pen right now. I get a move to so both cameras can get me. Now I'm squeezing it tight. I'm holding on to it. It's not going anywhere, right? But if I relax my hand, it falls right out. I'm not doing anything. I'm actually doing less. I'm using less energy to let go of that than I would be hanging on to it. And that's what we're doing with those emotions. And the feelings tell us what the emotions are, and how to identify them. So just let the body do what it needs to do without forcing it, without pushing it, because once we surrender to the process, that's when it starts happening. Because it really is about doing less and relaxing. Go with the flow. And I mean, that's what it's all about, is getting the flow going, right? And allowing things to happen at their own pace. So those are kind of a few of the elements I wanted to go through about that. The other thing is, when you're starting out with releasing, and especially when we're going after kind of heavy things, or if we've been shut down for a while, there can be intensifications. Whereas like by activating the process of no longer suppressing and pushing them down, but letting them up and going through, we could feel whatever that is intensify for a little bit. And that's okay, because it will get lighter. So it's just because we've kept so many things down for so long. We've been shut down. The water hasn't been flowing through the hose. So when it does start going, people can just, it can be a little overwhelming at first. I've been there. Hi, Self-Love Teddy, asking in the comments on Instagram. And for those of you watching me on Facebook and YouTube right now, go to Instagram and give me a follow if you haven't. She's asking, how do you just let go? And that's a great question. I mean, for me, it's the releasing process. It's welcoming it in is the first kind of step, right? Because we can't let go of something that we don't welcome. If we are in denial about what we're feeling, or we're telling ourselves, no, it's not this, it's not that, then how are we going to be able to let go of it? because we're still pushing it away. So the first part of that is welcoming, is why I like to say welcome, accepting, acknowledging just what is, and then sitting with it, and just sitting with that feeling, and noticing it, noticing where we feel it in the body, and just go, okay, yep, I feel a little heavy here. And then we can just ask ourselves, would I let this go? And just see how that feels in the body. And then, can I let this go? And we might start to feel a release start to happen then if the body says yes. Now, if we have a lot of resistance to it, to the idea of letting go of what's coming up, which is very common. Don't expect to not run into resistance. Resistance is usually one of the things that we run into the most. Then it might be like, no, I can't let this go, and you can feel that in the body. Maybe you feel your heart closing up a little bit as that resistance to feeling it kicks in. And what I do then is can I welcome the resistance? Can I welcome the aversion to what I'm feeling? That not wanting to look at it. And then can I welcome any sense of courage, and the courage that it takes just to look at the thing that I'm feeling the aversion towards, that the feeling that's making me uncomfortable. And because when you, again, we're going on the 1% rule, we're welcoming a little bit of courage in, the courage to welcome whatever that other feeling is. Then we could feel it start to get lighter as that courage comes in. Like I'm a big Leonard Cohen fan, and he has a song, one of the lines in it, I see this kind of quote from different things, but I go by it like Leonard Cohen, and it's that there's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. And that's how it is with releasing, letting go, and the 1% rule. So by welcoming the courage, we can, and sitting with that, and then going back, we can start to feel it get lighter and lighter. And but we have to welcome it first. So that's the thing. And sometimes we might not necessarily even be able to go after big things right away. We might have a lot other stuff that we have to work on that gets there, because it can be like peeling an onion down until we get to that core. But it's a continuing process, right? And I hope that helps. I hope that kind of answers it. But I feel like there's more I can be saying there. But yeah, welcome and accept what is. That's the first thing. Notice the feeling. Where do you feel in the body? What does it feel like? Is it heavy? Is it light? Where is it? For me, it's kind of funny. I always feel like the heavier emotions, and when I say heavy, I'm talking like if we have the bottom of the scale, apathy, grief, and fear, and then going to the middle, there's lust, wanting, anger, and pride as we go up. And then we get into the lighter ones where flow state happens: courage, acceptance, love, and peace. But I always feel the heavier ones on my left side and the lighter ones on my right, and which comes in very handy for me, because if I'm doing a polarity release, so whereas like, okay, if there's a lot of resistance coming up, and I don't want to look at that, or that's heavy and maybe I don't. By welcoming the courage in, and doing the same process, I'm sitting with that. I'm looking away from the lower one. I'm welcoming the higher stuff. And then when I look at that, I'll look back at the heavier one. And then I'll check in. I'll see how does that feel? Has it gotten a little lighter? And then I'll just kind of like look away from it because I know I can. And I'll go back to the courage. And I just go kind of back and forth like that. So think about like having like 2 cups of water and you're just kind of going back and forth with them. But then at the end, like a nice thing I like to do is visualize like balloons in one in each hand, just kind of like filling up with all of that. So like in one hand, it will be all the heavier stuff in the left hand. In the right side, it's all the lighter stuff. It's any of that courage, acceptance, love, and peace that's in there. And so I just do a little visualization of these balloons filling with it, and then I let them both go and just watch them drift off into the distance. And that's the other thing with releasing that is important that we get good at, is also letting go of the higher stuff. And because it's, at the end of the day, it is about letting go of our attachments to things. And it's about, whether that's an attachment to aversion, whether that is, just the limiting beliefs, the old stories that we've told ourselves about things. But we also want to be able to let go of, what that sense of courage, acceptance, love, and peace at the same time. Because when you let go of it, it's all going to come back to us. It's going to come back to us better most of the time. We're going to get more of it. But we have to be able to let it all go in order to receive it. And by cultivating that, because I think one of the things that drags us down and gets us stuck, I know this has happened to me. No, I'm not alone. But it's like, okay, things are going good. You're feeling good. You're chugging along. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm being like super productive or whatever. Just, life is flowing. You're in a flow state. And, like, man, I don't want this to stop. It's going to at some point, because that's just kind of what happens. But, when that thought comes into our head, that's coming from down below. That's coming from that place of fear. And maybe like lust, wanting, And when that happens, we're trying to grab on to the higher stuff. We're trying to grab on to the courage, or whatever that we're feeling up there. And by doing so, we pull it down and we drag it down. And then we end up down in apathy, grief, and fear, because, remember, those are the inward energies. Those are the inward selfish sort of energies, where it's like, okay, I don't want to lose this. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to keep it. And that's never how it works. But when we let go of it, it's going to come back to us. So thank you for the question. I hope that helped. I hope you guys all got a lot out of it. So thank you for joining me for today's live stream of consciousness. I'm glad I popped on to do this. And I'm going to go for 30 seconds more so we can end on a nice even half an hour. But again, this is for the people on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. Tell your friends. Share this. Let's give me that live studio thing so I can only have to look at one camera. And go follow me on TikTok too if you haven't. Hypnosis with Evan. Okay. Well, Thanks everybody for watching, and have a great night.